22:47 local time, deep inside Iranian airspace, the lead F-35I Adir pilot was already 90 minutes into hostile territory on what the mission brief had called a standard deep strike profile. Six stealth fighters. Radars cold. Weapons internal. No emissions. The formation moved in complete silence, navigating on coordinates relayed from an intelligence aircraft orbiting over Iraq. Routine. Until the warning receiver lit up. X-band fire control radar. The one signal every strike pilot hoped never to see. Below them, and Tor M1 battery had come alive. Iran places these systems around what it cannot afford to lose. For nearly an hour, the battery had remained dark, invisible to anti-radiation weapons and electronic surveillance. Then, at exactly the right moment, the crew began searching. 38 kilometers. And closing. Inside the Tor vehicle, the IRGC operator tracked the incoming returns across his scope. He had already watched long-range batteries across western Iran disappear under repeated AGM, 8-8 harm strikes. Every radar that stayed active had been destroyed. His survived for one reason. It never gave the missile a beam to ride. The Gadir radar network had already fed him bearing data minutes earlier. Contacts inbound from the southwest. Now the range collapsed. 32, 28, 25. The first 9 M331 surface-to-air missile was armed. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's first instinct was electronic warfare. The Adir flooded the radar spectrum with jamming noise. Against fixed-frequency systems, this often blinds the radar. But the Tor changed frequencies with every pulse. By the time one channel was jammed, the system had already shifted again. The lock held. Then the warning changed. Search mode to hard lock. At 18 kilometers, the Tor had him. The pilot reacted instantly. He broke hard left at 7 Gs. Chaff. Flares. Full evasive maneuver. The G-forces crushed him into the seat as altitude fell rapidly. 22,000 feet. 16. 14. The lock finally broke inside the countermeasure cloud. He survived, but now he was lower than planned. Directly over a military-industrial zone protected by IRGC ground security. On the surface, another launcher was already rising. A Misa 2 Manpads team aimed skyward. At this altitude, the aircraft was now inside shoulder-fired missile range. No radar warning, no search sweep, only infrared. The pilot had one choice: climb. Afterburners ignited as the F-35I Adir punched back toward higher altitude. Once above 15,000 feet, he rolled inverted and brought the nose back toward the target. There would be no second pass. Bomb bay doors opened. For 8 seconds, the aircraft's stealth profile was compromised. The radar cross-section briefly expanded from near invisible to fully trackable. Inside the Tor battery, the operator saw the return bloom. Massive. Clean. The track solution began rebuilding, but it was already too late. The GBU-31 JDAM separated cleanly. The bomb dropped away in a steep diving release toward the target below. The bay doors slammed shut. Stealth returned. The radar lost him again. The Tor was now chasing a ghost. Below, the JDAM continued descending toward the industrial complex. This was not the mixing hall destroyed months earlier. This was the casting facility, the heart of missile motor production. Thermal sensors had already confirmed active curing pits inside the structure. Destroying mixers slows production. Destroying casting pits cripples it. Seconds later, the strike hit. The bomb punched through the reinforced roof at terminal velocity. Then, the night exploded. A violent internal detonation tore through the casting hall. Concrete pits collapsed inward. Mandrels shattered. A partially cured missile motor was destroyed in its cradle. Months of reconstruction disappeared in seconds. 90 seconds later, follow-on strike aircraft crossed in from Iraqi airspace. Additional precision-guided bombs walked across the rest of the complex. Storage structures, mixing facilities, research buildings, secondary blasts rolled across the horizon. As the strike package turned west, the trailing pilots detected something new. VHF radar emissions. The Ghadir radar had been transmitting throughout the strike. This changed everything. Unlike short-range fire control radar, the Ghadir did not need to fire. It only needed to detect bearing, altitude, formation size. That information was now moving across the surviving Iranian air defense network. Farther northeast, a second strike formation was already committed deep inside Iranian territory. Additional F-35I Adir aircraft and supporting strike fighters pressed toward another missile production complex. Fuel margins were now critical. Turning back was no longer an option. Then new SAM pulses appeared. A mobile air defense battery was transmitting in short bursts. 3 seconds on, then dark again. Hard to track, harder to suppress. Again, anti-radiation missiles had nothing stable to ride. The strike package pressed through, then the distributed aperture system flagged a new threat. MiG-29 fighter profile. An Iranian interceptor was moving west on an intercept heading radar cold. Infrared hunt. The pilot was using passive sensors to search for engine heat. One radar pulse from the Adirs could destroy the MiG. But that same pulse would expose the entire stealth formation. The lead pilot chose silence. The stealth fighters spread into screening formation, interposing themselves between the interceptor and the strike aircraft. The MiG searched, found nothing. The stealth wall held. At the target complex, pilots discovered the worst-case scenario. Iran had expanded the facility far beyond previous intelligence estimates. More buildings, more blast walls, more casting pits. There were now more targets than bombs. The call came immediately. Casting only. Every available weapon was reassigned toward the hottest thermal signatures. Every bomb now aimed at the infrastructure that mattered most. Precision weapons separated. The strike formation turned west. Then the eastern horizon erupted. A chain of explosions rolled across the complex. Concrete structures folded inward. Production pits collapsed. Entire missile lines vanished in fire and debris. "48 hours later, satellite confirmation would show the same conclusion. The production network had not merely been damaged, it had ceased to exist. For tonight, the mission was complete. but the air war over Iran was only accelerating.